All right, we're going to make some salsa today. I'm Dave Cathey. I write the Food Dude column for the Oklahoman. And today's section, we did some salsas. And you know what? We don't have a food processor here, do we?
No.
Okay, so we're going to be winging it and doing some stuff by hand. No problem. We can do that too. So, who here likes to make salsa? Anybody? Yeah? I know everybody likes to eat it. Yeah, there you go. Well, I got good news. Salsa is super easy to make, and you can even do it without a food processor. Although it makes it easier if you have one, makes it go faster.
Next year we'll have
Not a problem, not a problem. So, first thing we're going to do is going to kind of take you through what we call salsa fresca. It just means fresh salsa, okay? That's pretty simple. Tomatoes. Now, tomatoes. What kind of tomatoes do we like to use? Anybody have a preference on tomatoes? Roma, that's what I've got here today. Roma are very simple, they're very cheap, and the nice thing about Roma for salsa is they have a lower water content than most tomatoes. Because one thing that folks don't realize when they're making salsa is all that water that comes out of those tomatoes, it'll just end up thinning out all your flavor. So that's why you use one of these right here. And once you have something come out of the food processor, you simply pour it into this, let it drip out, and then shake it free, and then you've got your salsa nice and thick and chip friendly. And the other thing that you have is you have what I like to call tomato broth that comes out of it. So you have this very spicy tomato water, and I like to pour that when I'm making beans. I'll just pour all that into the beans and let it reduce, and then it creates this wonderful flavor. So, wow, it's really coming down now. So tomato, if you're going to do just a salsa fresca, I just like to cut them in little quarters like this, take out what's called the guts, and then just dice them however you want to dice them. I mean, I usually make my wife do it because she has really great fine motor skills, and she makes these wonderful little tomato squares. I'll do my best, but I'm not near as good at it as she is. So we're just going to dice that up. And then the next ingredient that we'll have, now, who likes salsa really hot? Really hot? Okay. What kind of peppers do you like to use?
Serranos and then just jalapenos.
Yep. Serranos that's my preferred pepper as well for salsa. I'll give you an example. Here it is right here. That's a serrano pepper, long and thin, and sometimes they'll get even about that long and about that big around. And they've got just a great flavor. Here's the jalapeno, bigger and fatter. Now, one thing about the salsa. Does anybody know where the heat comes from?
Seeds.
The seeds? What's that? The ribs, that's right. That is where the seeds roost, as they say. See here, this white part in the middle?
Yeah.
That's the danger zone right there. So you really just want to cut your salsa, your jalapenos in half, your peppers in half, and just see how big that cluster is. And that'll give you a really good idea of how hot these peppers are. And they're seasonal. I was talking to Cholino Garcia, who owns all the Cholino's restaurants, and he told me at their place, they always have to dial back the jalapenos in the winter because whoever it is that supplies them, their peppers are hotter when they come in January and December. So that's just something to keep in mind. When you're doing a salsa recipe, it's really hard to say it's this many tomatoes, it's this many peppers, and so forth, because it is dependent on the ripeness of the tomato and the ripeness of and the heat of the jalapeno. We got some good rain going now. Now jalapenos and tomatoes. There's one other essential. Wow. That is impressive. It is the Arts Festival, folks. You can set your calendar by it. The rain will come. 3 essential items in salsa. Tomatoes, jalapenos. Anybody got an idea what the next one?
Cilantro?
Not cilantro. It is for something. Garlic. That's it. Garlic you gotta have. If you don't have garlic, that's why when you make pico de gallo, a lot of times you don't put garlic in it. And I like pico de gallo, but There's always something missing, and garlic is what it is. But pico is great to use like a relish, to throw on stuff that might already have a pretty decent garlic content of their own. So it isn't without merit. Now, once you get beyond the garlic and the tomatoes and the peppers, that's when you can start getting creative with what goes into it. That's where cilantro comes in. And not everybody likes it. There are people, it's scientifically proven, there are people whose palate cannot handle cilantro. It comes off tasting like dish soap. Yep, it's just a quirk of nature. So yeah, those people, there's really, the schools are love and hate, pretty much. That's about it. So, you know, so cilantro is strictly a matter of taste. For me, I like it. I'm a fan. However, one thing I have found is if you're not going to eat all the salsa in one sitting and you're making it fresh, sometimes that cilantro will have an adverse effect on your salsa the next day, as will one other ingredient, onions. Really tricky ingredient when it comes to salsa. Who likes onions in their salsa? Pretty much everybody, for the most part. Yeah, it's a tricky thing, and the reason why is, just like with the tomatoes, onions are loaded with their own water, their own juice. So you got this natural liquid that just sits in this raspy, spicy onion, and it just absorbs all that. And so if you put that into a pot and you stick it in the refrigerator overnight and that water continues to leach out and ruminate, the next day you have essentially onion juice for salsa. So there is a cure, a couple of them actually. Our patron saint of Mexican food in Oklahoma City, Rick Bayless, he likes to do what they call deflaming the onions. Anybody ever heard that term, deflame an onion? Yeah, I hadn't either until I heard Rick say it. What that is essentially, this is something they do in Mexico, and that's one other thing about onions in salsa, white onions. In Mexico, they don't have yellow onions, so white onions is it. Now, the way to deflame that is you would chop it up into small pieces, put it in a bowl with some water and a little bit of apple cider vinegar and let it sit for at least 10 minutes. And it'll that vinegar will help kind of draw out all the extra liquid, drain it off, pat it dry, and then throw it in your salsa at the end. And that way, that'll kind of help you keep some of those impurities out. The other way to do it is cook the onions. If you just saute them a little bit, that will take care of a lot of that. Again, you're going to want to kind of pat them dry. The idea is to remove as much liquid as possible. So onions, you've got your fix. And also with cilantro, like I said, you know, if you're having people over, find out if they like cilantro or not. It's amazing how good a salsa you can make on just 3 ingredients. But, you know, it's my job to complicate things, so I like to do a lot of extra stuff. So we start out with a fresh salsa, and this one is going to be a salsa fresca. If I put it in the food processor and blended it up, we would call it a salsa cruda, which basically just means crude sauce. They really created with those names in Mexico. Of course, we are too. I don't know whether what's their word for ketchup. You know, I don't know what ketchup means. Somebody put tomato and sugar and all kinds of good stuff together and said ketchup. You know, I guess it's as good as anything. Perhaps if somebody out there's a future for them if they can come up with a good name for salsa, because you know salsa just means sauce. But anyway, let me get these last tomatoes done. The fresh sauce. And this is what you're going to find usually at the restaurant on the table, and that we eat tons of every year. That is salsa cruda or salsa fresca. Now I'm going to leave the mean stuff in. That's how I like to do it. I apologize in advance.
Are those serranos you're using? Or?
This is a jalapeno right here.
Jalapeno, okay.
Yeah, just happened to be the one I grabbed. And for me too, the other thing I left out on tomatoes and peppers. The best tomato to use isn't necessarily aroma. It's one that just came out of your garden. Garden fresh tomatoes, I don't care what the breed, what the strain is, they're always going to be best. They have thicker skin, they have deeper flavor. And the same thing goes for hot peppers. They, when you grow them in your garden, they actually have a peppery scent, like a black pepper scent. And that black pepper scent translates into the food, into the pepper itself. And so again, it's just one extra tiny note that you're going to get out of your salsa. The stuff in the grocery stores will work just fine, but the way we commercially farm doesn't allow for some of the nuanced flavor that we really love out of the garden. So there's that. Okay, so again, fresh sauce, crude sauce, what do you want to call it? It's going to be a very basic flavor, a single note flavor. Just happens to be one we like a whole lot. Okay. Oop. A little bit more right there. Just do a little onion for this one. So the next step up from that is going to be a roasted salsa, which is why I put some stuff in the oven for us. And it's still going. And basically, once you do that, does anybody have any idea what happens to a tomato when you put it in the oven?
Dries it out.
Dries it out for one thing, but it starts pulling out the natural sugar from the tomato. And that natural sugar is going to impart a sweetness into our salsa that makes it really hard to beat. That's, you'll hear chefs and people on Food Network and food nerds like me talk about depth of flavor. Depth of flavor. What's the flavor profile? What's the depth of flavor? Well, that depth of flavor comes from, or the complexity of flavor. That's another. Well, that basically is your palate is reading the ingredient as it comes across, and if you pull everything out of an ingredient, you're going to tell a story in the end. And it's going to taste one way on the initial taste, and as it crosses your palate, it settles into another. And if you're very lucky, on the way down, you get one last push of flavor. And with roasted salsa, you definitely get that. You're going to get a sweet kind of flavor at first, and then it's going to become very savory, just like a good Italian tomato sauce. And then there at the end, you get a blast of heat that triggers your brain to say, I want more. I want more. And the more you eat, the more angry that part of your body, or that part of your brain seems to get. Because when I get good salsa in front of me, I cannot stop eating it. Okay, so we got all that, and we need a little bit of lime. Okay, the last bit for a fresh sauce that we need, and our cilantro. Yeah, now this one, because I don't have the food processor today, I can't pound that garlic in there like I would like to. I can mince a little up and see what we can do. We'll do this on the fly a little bit. Okay, a little cilantro. Same thing. Now with cilantro, a lot of people ask about the stems. It's okay if the stems are in there. It's not going to hurt anything. For me, it's just they're a little bit, the texture can be a little bit obtrusive, so I just kind of try and stay out of there. All right, these guys, nice and fine. All right, where do you guys like to eat your salsa while I'm doing this? Anybody? Who makes a salsa that you really like here in town? Abel's, yes. Abel's makes terrific salsa. They have 2 or 3 different kinds that they do, including a roasted salsa that is divine. I love it.
Sorry.
It's in there. Anyway, all right. Okay. And we'll just, you've got those little, yeah, right there. Okay. So and I can make some more, obviously, if we don't have quite enough. And the last thing, like I said, a little bit of lime. When we're working in flavors, the whole idea is fat, salt, and brightness, acid, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, this is where we get our acid. Now, the one thing we don't have in this in a salsa cruda or a salsa fresca is fat, okay, which is a good thing for your health, obviously. But for your salsa, that's why it's only one note. There is no fat in this at all. And as bad as fat is for us, if we have too much of it, our palate gets angry if we don't have some. All right, a little bit of salt. Oh yeah, and here's our salt that we talked about. One thing too to remember when you're dealing with peppers, especially dried peppers, we'll get to that here in a second, is they need salt as well. Anything that doesn't have a natural fat that you can bring out of the food, you've got to add some or just live with the one note flavor. And sometimes that's okay. All right, let's go with that. I think I only put one pepper in there. All right. Okay. All right, so let me see. Next, I don't know if we can make this one today, but we can talk about it for sure. I had this in the paper today. Anybody familiar with tomatillos? Tomatillos, okay, but not as many. That's what I thought. Well, when you're at the grocery store, this is what it looks like. This little guy right here. All right? Now, you're going to peel that away, and this is a perfect one. When you're looking for tomatillos, you want it to be nice and tight to the berry is actually what it is. Pulls away, and there's a little stickiness between the husk and the tomatillo. Yeah, look at the color on that one. That's exactly the color you want right there. I'll tell you, there was a time when you could not find them in Oklahoma City, but now, and if you did, they looked more like this one, more of a pale green. That one's not quite right. This is going to be really tart, really bitter. It's okay if you have one or two of these mixed into your salsa, but you want them to primarily look like this, okay? Now, a tomatillo, anybody have any idea? Like I said, it's a berry. It's not a green tomato. It looks like a green tomato. We'll cut it in half. Cut it in half, it doesn't look anything like a tomato. All right? This is actually from the juniper family. I don't know why. I've grown them at the house before, and they do grow like, it's like cedar. It is crazy. You have little husks all over your yard. Yeah. And these guys, super tart. You can actually, I do this, like right now, limes are getting a little bit crazy, getting a little bit expensive, and not very good right now. Can actually, a tomatillo is a pretty strong little substitute for a lime. Now you have to completely blend it to get to down to the juice. You can't squeeze it like a lemon, but it has a very natural tart flavor, just like the lemon. And that's why some people, when they're making a salsa verde green sauce, they add lime to the tomatillo sauce, and it doesn't make any sense to me because it's like adding lime to lime. So you have the super tart flavor. Now with this, what we do with these typically is we boil them, okay, for about 5 minutes. You can even throw the peppers in there with them. It won't really, it might take a little heat out of the peppers, but it's not going to completely kill the heat. What it will do is have a more uniform texture so that everything's nice and soft. Then you simply blend that with the water and add cilantro. That's it. That's all you got to do to make a good salsa verde. Also add some salt. And then the next step that we had in the paper today, I had an avocado somewhere, is you just simply add one avocado to that salsa verde, blend that up, and now you've got two kinds of green sauce, one with a single note and then one with a little creamier finish, which is really great. Now, salsa verde is another thing that we don't, in our country, we don't seem to quite grasp. It's not really a dipping salsa. You can dip it. It's fine. Abel's we were talking about, they serve it. They have it in a little squeeze bottle, and I'll squeeze it like a whole thing of it. If I didn't like Abel so much, I would have stolen one of those years ago. I mean, that sauce is great. Yeah, he's a great guy. And a hug. Yeah. And so anyway, it's really great on food, is what it comes down to. A lot of Mexican restaurants, you have chopped lime. They'll serve things with some limes. Sliced up for you, you get some tacos, and you get this look here. You just have them on your plate, looking like that. Well, the idea is in Mexico, pretty much everything they squirt with lime. All right. The reason for that is a lot of the recipes that come from deepest, darkest Mexico are ultra simple. Really thin cut meats, salt, pepper, maybe a little smear of garlic powder. Fry it up really fast. Put it on a tortilla. Well, that's not going to have a whole lot of flavor all by itself. So all of the magic of Mexican food really comes from these salsas that they do. And there are so many of them. And you get into there and you've got all kinds of fruits and that they'll bring in, and like I said, different ways of cooking them. Yeah, here are my dry peppers. We'll talk about that a little bit here. These are chiles de árbol. All right? Anybody ever heard of that? No. One person. There we go. All right. These are they, as you would say. They're similar to a cayenne pepper. Have that kind of that same sort of heat as a cayenne pepper, but you just dry these out. And so what you do, I'll tell you what, maybe we can, let's do this. A little bit of water in there. Yeah. Basically what you do with chiles de árbol is you grab a bunch of them, and you can kind of hold them out like this, and very rapidly sort of roll them on your hand like that. See the seeds coming out there, okay? And then you have this left over, and then you would put that with just a little bit more so we're cover that. And then you do that, but I don't do that. It's more time, and not to mention, when you start rubbing those on your hands, if you don't have gloves, you will pay later. And it really doesn't, it just adds time for me. So you just throw those in water like that. And then what we'll do is you just sort of bring that up to a little bit of a boil, just a real small boil. Yeah, there you go. Oh, and I just threw the stem in there. How do you turn this? Can you turn that on for me?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just throw those in there. And even like that one had the stem on it still, it doesn't really matter if the stem's in there. All we're doing here is we're reconstituting these peppers, all right? And what that's going to end up doing is they'll get nice and soft, and it basically, very resourceful. Whoever the first gatherer, probably not a hunter who figured this out, but a gatherer who had these drying on the vine and said, man, what a waste. I wonder if we could do something with these. And lo and behold, they could. So you save these throughout. I'm sure these were saved for the winter. And when the time came, throw them in water, let them reconstitute. And then in Mexico, they would use what you call a molcajete, and telojate, I believe it's called. Big lava rock bowl with a mortar and pestle, basically. And you just grind it all into a paste, all right? And you get this great, super hot paste flavor that you can do a lot with. Now, chiles de árbol are very common in Mexican food. And they're very easy to find now, too. This is another one I used to have to mail order, and pretty much any store in town has these. And the other thing you can do with them is make pepper flakes out of them. And they will be the hottest pepper flakes you ever had. They are my absolute favorite pepper to work with. Right now, anyway. Okay, I'm not going to trip on me. Okay.
Nope.
Let's see how we're doing in the oven here. Oh, yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, we're definitely getting there. Okay, let me make another bowl. Bowl ready. Here's all the other goods. Oh, there's that avocado. I told you I had one. All right, this I can get rid of. Okay, are those salsas ready to go? All right, let's take them out there. We're going to have some salsa fresca for you to try. Do we have enough, or do we need some more? Okay. All right, so we'll have some of that for you to try. All right, that's good. Now, the next thing is what I'm going to do. Let's transfer this here. Making this up as we go along. And then I'm just going to cover it. Okay? We brought that up to a boil. Now we're just going to let that steam a little bit. So I think of it as like you're steeping tea. And you just want to get those chiles de árbol nice and plump again, and they will do the work for you. Okay? Let me see, what else do I need for that salsa? All right, let's get the roasted stuff out. I think it's good to go. Is this okay to put a hot pan, or I guess I'll put it over there.
Or I have more of these.
I'll put it on the burner.
Okay.
Be simple. Ooh, that smells good. Okay. So now we have these guys, all right? And waft.
No, they smell right.
So now you can smell that. So that smell that you have right now, and what we've done here, I did a little bit of grape oil, but Olive & Company has this great Hatch chili infused olive oil. Terrific. So good. They have a Chipotle one too, but I really recommend the Hatch. Drizzle that over a little bit. So then what are we doing? We're bringing in our fat at that point. Okay. So that fat is now going to act with these tomatoes, which is dying to release this sugar. All right. So you've got fat and sugar, and then you're going to add in the heat from these chiles de árbol. And then we also have in here some roasted garlic. Okay. And this, if you've ever done a lot of roasted garlic, you know it's nutty and sweet and mild. All right. So that's why we use so much more. Garlic, when it's, I don't know of any ingredient that has such a wide switch from raw to cooked. Because, I don't know, has anyone ever happened to bite into a clove of raw garlic? Yeah. You learn very fast that it is super, super spicy and just, it'll knock you. There's a lot of hot pepper eating contests. I'd love to see a garlic clove eating contest. Really separate the men from the boys there. So yeah, so this, and what this does too, these cloves of garlic will be very soft. So again, if I had to molcajete, we would just mash it all up. And even, you know what? I might be able to. See there, you just think about it long enough.
You got something there that'll work.
Yeah, this might work. Let's see if we can mash those up a little bit. Yeah, that works. There's always a way. Okay. It's kind of working. All right. Gives me the signal to go ahead with it. All right. All right, one more of these. Okay, how'd the salsa turn? Is it pretty good?
Excellent.
Good.
Very good.
Good. I didn't taste it. Big sin on my part. All right, that's also hot. So basically here, and I want to tip up the whole pan because any juices that are in there, I want those in there as well. Okay. The one thing on this platter that is sort of uncommon, thank you, is a sweet red pepper. Okay. And the only reason I've got a sweet red pepper in here is because I'm using chilies d'arbol. All right. You can make this same salsa without chilies d'arbol. Just throw a couple of serranos or 5 or 6 or 8 or however many you like, or jalapenos. Don't use the chili d'arbol. At that point, you probably would not need a sweet roasted red pepper in there. Now, red pepper is where we get paprika from. So it makes a lot of sense with Mexican food. It's totally fine. Okay, I'm going to have to pull that part out, though. Those tongs. Yeah, here we go. I keep thinking I have a cord under my feet. All right, let's move that over here. See, okay, also with the tomatoes, to roast them, there's a couple ways you can do that. I like to do them in slices, because in big, thick slices like that, because they will cook more uniformly with the tomatoes. Otherwise, the onions will need to cook a lot longer than the tomatoes do. And that's just something I've learned over time. I would be in the oven 3 or 4 times and having to pull one thing and then pull another. But that ultimately is going to do the best job for you. Okay, so while those kind of cooling down, can mash that up as best as possible. Use a little knife work in there. And you're going to get, this is going to be a sauce here that you're going to be able to use, like I said, on a chip, or it's great for braising. Just maybe add a little broth to it and then cook a pork roast in it, cook a beef roast in it, whatever. That's going to be really, really good. And that the oven will let that sauce just marry into the chicken. Okay. Probably not the best use of my knife, but it's all right.
You'll have to sharpen it.
We'll just sharpen it later. No problem. Okay, that's going to give us a good idea of what this sauce tastes like. All right. So I've got my roasted onions. I'm going to just go ahead and chop it as small as I can here. Nice, or no, just kind of chunky on this. So we've got this nice caramely onion. So now, same thing with the onion, just like with the tomato. You start cooking on that, and now you're going to get this really robust flavor with the sweetness, and then just the part of the onion that we love the most. And hopefully we've cooked away the part of the onion we like the least. I know it seems, exclusionist, but, it's flavor, man. It's about all there is. It's all we know for sure that's true. It's flavor. All right. Mix that up. Yeah, you can smell that onion releasing. And that releases, that's part of what we're trying to get rid of. That's good. So it's doing its job. All right, you. All right, a little sweet pepper. Okay. Roasted bell pepper, again, one of those things. I've written a bunch about a lady named Kamala Gamble. She owns a small farm in Nichols Hills, of all places. It's actually 1.3 acres in the middle of a residential neighborhood where she grows tomatoes and potatoes and peppers and raises chickens and all this stuff. She also happened to work for Rick Bayless for a couple of years and learned a lot of his style. She makes great Mexican food. And as I wrote about today, she took me through cooking school one day where she made all these different salsas, and we got to try the progression of everything, and you really see the difference. Okay.
Where did she work for Rick?
She was up at Frontera.
Okay.
She went up there, and she was with them, I think, a year and a half. I think she told me she was even on the first season of Mexico One Plate at a Time in the background. But she had a restaurant here briefly. What was it called? It was on Lake Hefner, and it didn't work out. It was way ahead of its time for our market. And then she Casa del Sol or Mar, or something like that. And then so she, instead of opening another restaurant, she started growing stuff, and she eventually bought the 2 properties on either side of her and expanded into this amazing operation. So she has it all. And she has a CSA, a community assisted agriculture program. So you can pay her $20 or $25 a month, something like that, and then she will have you a big sack of groceries ready. Okay.
She delivers it.
Yes, if you're nice. Okay, we got our garlic, we got that. We need our peppers. All right. And this is going to be the tricky part. Okay, let's strain these off. Usually, like I said, I would throw these in the blender to make them do what I want them to do. But today, I will be mincing them. And I've never done that before. So
Now, why did you cover them up again? Because I forgot.
it's just to steam it.
Gotcha.
See, so now, okay, let's see the difference here. Where did my dry one go? See, now that the flesh is plumped out, and the longer you leave it, the more plump it's going to get. And so that's a good thing. Yeah. Dry and rigid, and now they're soft and pliable. Okay? So when you put that in the blender, it's just going to blast out. All right? There's a lot of these here, so. All right.
It'll be hot.
Yeah, this is going to be hot. I apologize in advance.
It's all right.
This is going to be hot. And a little chunky.
Are you going to use water?
No. Now that water that she just took away, typically what I would do is throw that in the blender or in the food processor as well, just to add a little more. But this has actually got plenty of liquid in it already. Yeah, I think that's going to be plenty right there.
Now, would you put the red pepper?
Yeah, the red pepper I just,
Put that in?
yeah, I diced it up real small.
Okay.
And put that in there. But like I said, this is one that I would typically use for a food processor. Be the best way. You're going to get the best result for that. Okay. All right. This should be interesting. Okay. All right. Now we need salt. Now this one, we don't need as much salt because we have a fat in there, all right? And I did salt and pepper the tomatoes and the onions before I put them in the oven. It just helps pull out that liquid. But I do want to do a little bit. A little bit more pepper. I just kind of do it by look. It has a certain look that I like. And that's usually when, yeah, thank you. She recognizes right away that I'm going to want to taste this.
So you may not be able to pass it out.
That's right. I may pass out. Who knows? Okay, a little bit of salt. Okay. Mix that up. Let's see how we did.
I can say it's
All right. Okay, I gotta get that. Oh yeah. We did good. Yeah, this will be, oh yeah, there's the heat. Right there at the end. Just like you like it.
What is that?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a little bit of garlic. It was a little bit whole. Like I said, I usually process this, so I want to make sure that nobody gets a whole clove of garlic.
That's okay.
Well, right? He knows. Now, they're roasted now, though. So
Roasted is great.
yeah, roasted is great. Roasted will be just fine. Okay.
It is amazing the context that becomes after you eat it.
Oh, it's amazing. I wish I was smart enough to be able to explain the full chemical breakdown, but alas, I am not. I'm just a cook. All right. Okay, let's get that out there. Yeah, you know what else we'll do here, just for fun, just to show that one of the beauties of all this is the versatility. I'm going to take that avocado that I had planned for something else, and I'm going to throw it in here. Because you can. That was another great Bayless thing. He was doing a guacamole demo here in the city a couple years ago, and he made a version that had bacon in it. And that was his explanation. I'm going to put bacon in this guacamole because I can. So yeah. Oh wait, you know what? That's okay. I'll just peel it because I'm gonna dice it. Just takes a second. Got lucky there. That's a nice avocado. Score. It is that time of year we're starting to get good avocados again.
Where do you buy your avocados?
You know, I'll tell you the truth. There's a little place called Feria Latina on Northwest 23rd and Ann Arbor. And if you like to make spicy foods or Latin foods of any kind, I really recommend this place. I have never gone there and not found a ripe avocado. They have a great tomato selection, and the chili selection that they have, well, it's a little, for me, it's Christmas time when I go in there. My wife does not like going there with me because I stay a really long time.
Do they still do burritos there?
Yes, they have a wonderful taqueria at the front, and then their butcher shop, they make their own chorizo back there, and it's terrific. And they have these big igloo coolers full of corn tortillas made here in the city, and they're still hot. They've got steam in the bag. That's how good they are. I mean, you have to eat them in about 3 days because they go bad. But, oh man, they're so good. Feria Latina.
It's at 23rd and Ann Arbor. It's Oklahoman.
Yeah, it's a really old grocery store. But yeah, they have frozen fruits from Peru and Colombia and all these weird stuff. You think, oh, people in other countries have frozen foods too. Not everybody's eating Salisbury steak. Okay, yeah, I think we got a little chunky style salsa picosa. And picosa just means spicy. Okay? Yeah, the only thing different about this, like if you're at Abel's or one of these places, all right, what you'll see salsa especial. And you get that, and it'll be, in a big molcajete a lot of times. It's all roasted and mashed together, but there'll be jalapenos in it, that kind of thing. Well, since we use the chili jar bowl, this is going to be all red instead of red and green, so the color will be a little bit different. What is it? Got it? It's perfect. All right, so we'll get those out there. Let me think. Oh yeah, you know what? One last thing in there. A little bit of lime. I can do that right over their shoulder. Okay, right behind you. Just give that a little stir. Yeah. Yeah, initially I was going to put some tomatillo in there. I didn't. So, all right.
Now go over that. The tomatillo, you just boil it for about 5 minutes.
Yes.
Processor.
Yeah. I'll just show you real quick. So what you would do is take, a few of these. Here, I'll just do 3 of them. And then we just fill the pot up so it just barely covers the water. So the water barely covers the tomatillos. All right, just right to the top. And then take, a couple of these serranos. Take the stem off. Not real crazy about the textures of the stem. No. You do like that. And if you can also do your garlic in there. I do the garlic raw on this. I've done it both ways. Yeah, because when you boil garlic, it's the same effect as if you roast it. It's going to turn it mellow, and so you get a completely different flavor. You're usually inclined if you roast or boil one thing, you roast or boil everything. But over time and testing, found on this sauce, if you keep the garlic fresh, it's going to be a stronger flavor because it kind of needs it. It needs that the garlic. The salsa verde, a good one. The garlic is almost even with the tomatillo because you've got that really tart and that really strong, rich garlic flavor, and there's not a lot of in between. And so, here we go. We've got them coming out. So yeah, so you basically just take this up and let it boil 5 minutes tops. What's going to happen is the color is going to go from that dark green to more of a pale green, and everything will change color at that point. And this one I do in a blender rather than a food processor. So you'll go from that dark green to a lighter green once it boils, and it'll be nice and soft. Take everything, including the water, put it in there. Just blend it up until it's nice and smooth.
And garlic too.
Fresh garlic, nice and smooth. Done. All right? If you want to add a little something to it, take a small avocado, throw that in there, keep it blending. So you get 2 salsas for the price of 1, basically.
Wow.
So there you go.
Perfect.
All right, any other questions today?
Is all that in the paper?
That's all in the paper today.
I saw your article.
All in the paper today. It's online too. I was spending a lot of my morning trying to figure out where all the links to all the different recipes were. And asking people, why am I still looking for this? But anyway, by now it should all be there. And next week we'll be adding on to that. I'm doing a countdown to Cinco de Mayo. I used to for 25 years or so, I threw a big Cinco de Mayo party every year, and then I got middle-aged and babies.
This is delicious.
Good. Worked out okay. All right,
Tell
good.
us about what you're doing at propane.
American Propane, yes, that's tomorrow night. We're kind of the recipe I'm doing for the next week. It'll be cochinita pibil, which is a roasted pork recipe. I'm doing that tomorrow night at Open Flame, which is at American Propane. That's at 6 o'clock. These salsas will be there. Chef Mark Dunham from Francis Tuttle will be there doing Texas fajitas, and Catherine Mathis from Big Truck, she will be here at 2 o'clock, right? She's doing, I believe, shrimp tostadas,
Really?
which is what she's doing tomorrow night at Open Flame. So she's practicing. She's cheating. I'll get on to her for that. So yeah, and we do that. And I'll have the recipes for all those great dishes in the following week's paper. Yeah, so that's coming up to a boil. And same thing, you're just trying to soften those up a little bit, trying to get that texture a little bit. And again, tomatillos, they don't turn sweet like tomatoes do, but they lose a little of that tartness when you cook them. I like it fresh too. I mean, you can make a salsa verde with fresh tomatillos, but it's more of an acquired taste, like moles and some of the other Mexican, really complex flavors. They're sort of, at first, they confuse your palate. The first time I ever had mole, and mole, if you're not familiar, it's mini dried chilies and garlic and bitter chocolate, and it's cooked and it's cooked and it's cooked, and it's extremely complex flavor. And I was a young kid when I had it, and I saw chocolate and thought, I'll try that. And I just thought, I don't know about that. I wasn't really a big fan, but I kept thinking about it all week. I kept going back to that. So next time we went, I tried it again, and then there's this restaurant down where I grew up in Austin, Texas, and that same restaurant's still open today. And when I go next week, I'll probably go there and I'll get mole because it's that good. So some of this stuff is, like I said, is an acquired taste, but our tastes are moving in that direction for sure. The amount of chipotle and sriracha and all the different hot sauces from around the world that we now enjoy, it's amazing.
I never can find it here.
Yeah, the fact that you can find it. Yeah, because the Ferrilla Latina is great, but Biferless has 2 Mexican markets. One over on, 30? 16th and Drexel is El Mariachi. Yeah. And so all these ingredients you can find, and it's really great. And like I said, the best part about them is they almost all have taquerias. So you can go in, grab a taco, and then go do your shop. Or I don't know about you, it makes me shop faster. Which is a problem. So I can get through the store and everything. So, all right. Any other questions?
How did you first start out?
How did I first start out? Well, it was Mexican food that started it. I was a young kid growing up in Texas, and I loved tacos. And I said to my mom, who was a great cook, I said, why don't you ever make tacos? And she said, I don't know how. And I said, well, why don't you? And she said, well, if you like them so much, why don't you? And so I did. And I was about 10 years old and started making tacos, and then got interested in it, and then got interested in newspapers too, and the rest is history.
So you have a degree in journalism?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. All right, any other questions?
On behalf of the Arts Council, I want to say thank you so much for coming here today. I
You
really
bet.
appreciate your efforts.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Fun.